villain. Usually greed or money or whatever the hell it is. And you got to get the reader to love the villain. And almost half wish the villain wouldn't get defeated, so he'll be back again next issue. I love the heroes are okay. The heroes are okay, but it's the villains that make the stories. He wants to tell you about my work in the Army doing. What happened was, I was in the Signal Corps. They were about to ship me overseas, and my job was to climb telegraph these poles that they had and establish the electric wiring so that the troops who followed me could communicate with each other. So I was to go ahead of the infantry. Anyway, that was my job. I was all set to be shipped. I was waiting on the dock for the ship. A guy pokes me on the shoulder and says, "Didn't you used to write comics?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, we're transferring you to the Army film school. They have a training film area where they did training films for the troops, and you wrote books for the troops." What happened was it was taking too long to teach the troops how to use some of the complicated weapons, or how to do all the things they had to do, like how to operate a tank and so forth. And they wanted the booklets and the training films made simpler. So they went to the simplest guy they could find. And it was my job to take all these complicated manuals and rewrite them. And I even did little cartoons. And I'll tell you something that's totally unglamorous. One of the problems they had, the payroll officers were taking too long to work out the payrolls for the troops. So there'd be some guy in Europe getting his butt shot off in combat, and he wasn't getting paid in time, and it was lousy for morale. So my job was to teach the payroll officers how to do their job faster and do their payrolls. I know about as much about payroll as I do about atomic energy, but that was my job. So I made up a character called Fiscal Freddy, and I made up a game that you played on one page, and you had to get Freddy from the top of the page to the bottom of the page. But in order to do that, he had to answer trick questions. So I made a game out of it, and they all were doing the Fiscal Freddy game, and they were able to teach the payroll officers much faster than before. So the troops started getting paid, and this is why you come to these conventions. You learn things you never knew before. I single-handedly helped to win the war by paying the troops. Oh, I'll tell you another funny thing. I think it's funny. The payroll officers had a problem. They didn't feel needed. They didn't feel glamorous enough. They needed something to make them feel better. So I said I will write a marching song for them, for the payroll department. So when they marched around the field, they could sing their song. And I took the tune of the Army Air Corps song. You know that one? Off we go into the wild blue yonder. So I wrote for the payroll officers. Off we go into our office yonder, at our desk morning till night. Far away from any battle's thunder, we pay off the fellas who fight. Clerks alert, guarding our books from plunder. Payroll forms clutter the floor. We write, compute, sit tight to boot. Nothing will stop the fiscal director